remember Dynasty, darling. That decadent display of diamonds, divas, and designer duds, of Carrington's, Colby's, cash, and catfights. Well, the toys of Dynasty were manufactured by the likes of Rolls-Royce and Cartier. Thankfully, our friends at Mattel, well, they've come up with something a tad more accessible, shall we say.
Krystle Carrington is the other powerful female of Dynasty, powerful female character, and together with Alexis and John Forsythe as Blake Carrington, they formed the big three of that show. And Krystle really was the foil to Alexis Carrington. She was the good one, while Alexis was the bad one. And you saw that reinforced in a way in the fashions that Krystle wore during the series. She tended to be dressed in white like this. This is very much typical of how you saw her. In fact, in the intro scenes, the flashing of the credits at the beginning of each episode, you would see her in a white gown, a different white gown. It was more of a spaghetti strap white gown. So she's associated with the light, while Alexis is always walking on the dark side. So Krystle was played by Linda Evans, who was a veteran actress of the time. In fact, she starred in Big Valley, I believe in the 1960s, with another female actress who would go on to cross over to the Dynasty world, Barbara Stanwyck. Starred on Big Valley with Linda Evans, and both of them came into Dynasty and the Colbys later. Barbara Stanwyck played Sable Colby, so an interesting reunion of sorts. And Linda Evans you saw right away at the very beginning of the Dynasty series. She appeared in the very first episode in January 1981 as Blake's new young fiance and wife, his former secretary, who he married. And of course, that was Blake's second wife. His first wife was Alexis that we saw last week. So here's the Barbie doll of Krystle Carrington, and you can see the packaging is very much the same verbiage on the back, and the shot of the Nolan Miller designs of those two lovely gowns. Interesting that this one has the stole with it, and I guess actually they both do. And as I pointed out last week, let me grab my prop over here. You saw both of these, each of these gowns that the ladies are wearing in the doll set, you saw in this promotional shot that was used quite a bit for the TV show. And they did a really good likeness for this doll. That is a really good likeness of not only the gown, but also, I didn't mention it last week, but they matched up the jewelry really well. Let's take another look at Alexis, who is on her stand, by the way, now. We put her on her little stand that she came in. And look at how they matched up that jewelry. I love that. That necklace is the same, and the earrings, and they even have her bracelets on her, which is fun. All right. Now, one thing I'll note about the packaging, too, they've got a quote from each of these characters on the package. Last week for Alexis, what we saw was, that sounds like a challenge, and I adore a challenge. And that was from one of the episodes. That was a piece of dialogue that the Alexis character had. But the one that they have on the Krystle box is probably better remembered because this is actually from a cat fight that they had on the show. Of course, Dynasty pioneered the female cat fight in television. And the very first cat fight that Krystle and Alexis had, at the end of it, in fact, I'll even show you the date because in this I chronicled the cat fights. There were, I believe, about 10 of them, including the reunion movie. And in cat fight number 1, that was March 3rd, 1982, original air date. And that was, oh gosh, that was at Alexis's studio. She had a studio, an art studio on the grounds of the Carrington Mansion when she first came on the show as a character. And, you know, it took a lot to push Krystle's buttons. Krystle took the high road. She would not get into fights. But man, this ex-wife moves in and she's just doing nothing but trouble day in and day out. And finally, she pushed Krystle to the breaking point when Krystle learns that Alexis actually caused the horse riding accident that made her lose her baby. And so this was a serious thing. So she goes to Alexis's studio and confronts her. And then we have the very first cat fight of the series. Krystle was wearing a burgundy pantsuit, Alexis a periwinkle blue silk blouse, and split skirt. Remember those split skirts? They were also called gauchos sometimes. I had a pair of them when I was a kid. And at the end of the fight, as they're rolling around in the studio, tearing stuff up, feathers from pillows are flying everywhere, they're falling downstairs, it's getting really nasty. And finally, when Alexis is lying in a heap in the corner, Krystle has that parting remark, "If you want a rematch, just whistle." And she turns to go, and then she turns around, "If you can." So the very first cat fight on Dynasty, this so appropriately commemorates with this quote. A very nice touch. So let's take a look at Krystle. Now, I had gotten the Alexis doll first, as I mentioned last week, at a clearance price at Toys R Us, which is quite astonishing. I just went on eBay before shooting this episode just to check what they were going for on eBay. I did look for Krystle quite a while after that and did not find her for a while. It was much easier to find Alexis in the store. And when I finally did find Krystle, it was at a toy show in Kalamazoo, November 2015, just a few months ago as of press time. And I paid $25 for her, and I did not blink an eye. I did not say a word. I'm like, okay, sold, because that's the first time I had seen her, you know, for sale like that, accessible to me. I didn't go to eBay yet. I was probably going to go to eBay or Amazon eventually to try to nab her if I couldn't find her anywhere else. But I'm really glad that I did at this toy show, because looking on eBay, she goes for 80 bucks, 100 bucks, sometimes more. And she goes for more than Alexis. You can find an Alexis in the box for maybe 40 bucks, sometimes 30. I even saw one for 25. I wonder if they didn't make as many Krystle dolls, or if the Krystle dolls sold better. I don't know. It's kind of crazy, but Krystle is a higher price. All right, so taking her out of the box, we have the gifts, or the certificate, like we saw last week with Alexis. Says the same exact thing about this Dynasty Barbie doll. And she, as I mentioned last week, has sort of the other half of the Carrington mansion on a sort of the mirror image on her box. You can see that. And we're going to see if we can pry her out of all of these many attachments. This being, of course, an out-of-the-box experience. This is her stand. Rest of her stand. So we'll put that like that, set that aside, and start cutting these items from the back. I'm not going to keep any of this packaging. Let's see what we got on the front. We can pry her. Oh, we can just lift her hand out like that. That's nice. It's got much the same shape as the Alexis doll, although they didn't use the same mold, the same body mold, because a different arm is bent. Alexis has her left arm bent, and Krystle, I'm sorry, the other way around. Alexis has her right arm bent, and Krystle has her left arm bent. All right, up with the shoes. I'm going to have to cut those. See if I can get that out now carefully without, I guess I'm going to have to cut around her feet. She's got definitely a different pair of shoes on than Alexis. Carefully. Oh boy, that's some tough stuff. There we go. Get that. So she's got slingback pumps here. I like those. They're closed in the front, and they have the sling strap in the back. Very nice style. And let's put those on. Very, very thin, spiky heel, so you have to be careful. It looks like that bends easily, and actually this one is bent. Put that sling up. So, and very much long. This style came later, I think, although this was also a style in the 1950s with pumps to have the toe just go way out long. My mom had several pairs of pumps from the 50s that were like that. I don't know about the 80s, though, but I know it came back after a while in more recent times. I'm going to clip that off. See if I can slip this off. Or maybe it has to be cut. Nope. Okay, great. And then I will take this off her head. Oh my gosh, her hair is like a helmet. I can feel it's very, very thick and tough. And these pegs go right into her skull, like you saw last week with Alexis. So we're just going to cut them down as short as we can. Wow, look at that. That does not heckin' move. That hair is like bolted in place. It's like it's hard plastic or something, but it really is doll hair. It's just so heavily covered with what would be the doll equivalent of hairspray, I guess. Oh my word, that is crazy. Her shoe is falling off. I'm just going to set it over there for now. So here's the lovely Krystle in that beautiful Nolan Miller gown with her jewelry. She's got a nice little ring here. She does have painted fingernails like Alexis last week had red fingernails. Hers are more of a coral or pink. And just out of curiosity, last week I talked about the Pretty Changes Barbie and the trend in the 80s Barbies to have this removable plastic jewelry, and that's very much what you see here. There's a hole in her hand, so you can take off her ring, and it snaps back in without too much trouble. Looks like it's got like plastic residue on the other side. But her jewelry is meant to be removable, and there's her earring too. A post that comes out and then goes back in. Yeah, very much like the 1980s Barbies that you saw at the time. And I mentioned that I thought these dolls might be following a more 80s Barbie mold. Although the exception is, like Alexis last week, this Krystle, she has a special mold because her hip is bent. It is not articulated. You can't move her torso. She's just kind of frozen into sort of a hippie pose, for lack of a better term. Now her necklace in the back, it's got the tiny, tiny plastic elastic string here holding it on, but if that wouldn't be in place, if it wasn't in place, then this necklace would just, it's kind of basically like a cuff necklace that comes right off. But we'll leave it on for right now. So she's got articulation in her arms, and she does have, and I'm sure you can notice this in the box too, those of you who haven't taken her out of the box. She's got that other color under the underside of her hair, like a brown color. And that's something, you know, to tell you the truth, I don't know that I noticed it ever on the series. If you look at this photo, you could probably say that that was the case. She did have a very famous hairstyle that was copied at the time in the 80s. It did start a bit of a trend, and she kind of had always had these wings for bangs and all that. It was her trademark hairstyle was this one that you're looking at right here that she wore through most of the series. I never noticed, though, when I originally saw it airing, if the underside was really dark. I don't know, when I saw that on this Barbie doll, I thought, did they add that later? That just kind of looks weird. Let me see, she's got, oh, interestingly enough, I didn't see this on the Alexis doll, but she does not have articulation in the knee. So less articulation than the normal Barbie doll that you would see, more reminding me of Barbie did a Farrah Fawcett doll a few years ago in her famous red swimsuit pose that was on the poster that every boy had as a teenager back then in the 70s. And that doll, I didn't buy that. I love Farrah. Maybe I will buy that eventually. But one thing that turned me off to it, to tell you the truth, was the fact that she was frozen into that pose. If I buy a Barbie doll, I want her to be articulated, you know, like a normal Barbie doll. And these are kind of like that too, in that they decided upon a pose and froze her into it. All right. Lipstick matches the nail polish like any any classy lady would have. You know, you got to do that. So very nice. Overall, I think a good job. She does look like a Barbie. But can we see a little Linda Evans in there? We'll put her on her stand. Slide her legs in there if that's how you do it. Seems to be, oh yeah, this way. And then, leave her shoes off for now. We'll have the two lovely ladies side by side. And now I just got to decide how I'm going to display them. All right, thanks for watching, and stay tuned to this channel for more terrific TV toys.